Hey there, welcome back to my kitchen. Today we're going to be making 3 delicious homemade soups because the weather is starting to get cooler. It's that time of year where you just want a nice warm dinner, and this is absolutely perfect for that. Today's recipes are all very filling, all completely homemade, cozy, comforting soups that I think you and your family are really going to enjoy. So let's go ahead and get started, and I'll show you how to make these 3 awesome soup recipes. First up today, we're making some roasted tomato basil soup. To begin, I am just going to go ahead and preheat my oven to 400 degrees. Then moving over here to my cutting board, I have about 3 pounds of Roma tomatoes. I did wash those really well, and now I'm just going to slice them all in half. Moving over here to my little baking sheet, I lined it with some aluminum foil just to make cleanup a bit easier. You're just going to transfer all of your tomatoes over here skin side down. It's going to take up most of your baking sheet, but that's okay, just leave a little bit of room in the center. I'm going to lightly spray these with some avocado oil spray and then sprinkle them all over with some salt and pepper. Next, you will need an entire bulb of garlic. I'm just going to remove any loose pieces from the outside, and then you're just going to take a knife and cut off the end that is more pointed. And then it should look like this after you cut the end off. Grab another piece of aluminum foil that is big enough to wrap around the garlic bulb. I added some avocado oil on top of mine and sprinkled it with salt and pepper. And then I loosely wrapped it with the aluminum foil, kind of tenting the top of the foil over top of the garlic bulb. Then you'll just add that right in the middle of all of the tomatoes. I move the tomatoes around just a little bit more, and then this is going into the oven to bake for right around 50 to 55 minutes. Now I'm going to take 1 yellow onion, and I'm just going to slice this onion up. You could add this to your baking sheet if you want to, but I actually prefer to do it this way. I'm going to melt 2 tablespoons of butter into a large pot on my stovetop. Once the butter has melted, add in the onions and sprinkle with a little bit more salt and pepper. I'm going to let these onions cook in here for about 15 minutes or so until they are nice and tender. Here is what the tomatoes and the garlic will look like after that 50 to 55 minutes in the oven. At this point, the garlic should be very soft and you should be able to squeeze it out of the garlic bulb very easily. Now I'm going to begin transferring over all of my tomatoes into my onions. The onions should be good to go at this point, so once you get all the tomatoes in, then you can also add in your garlic. Then you'll need to add in 1.5 cups of chicken broth. Low sodium works fine if you like to use that. About 1 teaspoon of oregano and a handful of fresh basil. Next, you're just going to take an immersion blender, or if you don't have an immersion blender, you can use a regular blender as well. I'm just going to blend all of this soup up until it's nice and smooth. If you don't have an immersion blender, it's one of my favorite kitchen tools, so I'm going to link mine down below in case you're interested in that. Now I'm just going to add a couple tablespoons of heavy cream in here, a little bit of salt and pepper to my taste, and just a small handful of Parmesan cheese. Give that a good mix, let everything warm through, and then it's ready to go. I like to top mine with some Parmesan cheese. This is a shaved Parmesan, and a little bit more heavy cream on the top. On the side, I made some of my favorite 3 cheese grilled cheese to go along with it. It's delicious dipped in this soup. And then I also topped it with just a little bit of parsley for some color. Next, we're going to make this loaded baked potato soup, and I'm excited to try this one just because the method with the potatoes is a little bit different than I would normally do. So for these potatoes, you will want to microwave them for about 5 to 7 minutes until they are fork tender. After they're fork tender, you can just let them sit and cool down for a minute and let the skin on the outside begin to wrinkle. Moving over here to my pot on my stovetop, I'm going to go ahead and take some scissors and just cut up about half a pack of bacon. If you want to, you can just cook the bacon normally and then chop it up later, but this is a little bit easier and quicker. So while the bacon is cooking, we're going to come back over here to the potatoes, and as you can see, I am just kind of peeling the skin off. The skin on these potatoes peeled off so easy. I actually kind of liked this method. It was a lot easier than peeling and boiling. So now I'm just going to go ahead and cut up these potatoes. They are soft, so there will be some pieces that come off, but that actually adds into the texture of the soup. Cube these up in the size that you prefer and then just add them into a bowl until you are ready to use them. Back over to the pot, I'm going to go ahead and remove the bacon out of this pan and just add it onto a paper towel for now. I'm also just going to remove some of that grease as well. I don't necessarily need that much grease, but I'm going to leave about 2 to 3 tablespoons of bacon grease in the bottom of the pan. Next, go ahead and add in that onion, and we're just going to let this onion cook until it is nice and tender for about 5 to 7 minutes. Next, add in 1 tablespoon of minced garlic and let that cook for about 1 minute until you can smell it nice and strong. Now I'm adding in about a 1/4 cup of flour, and I'm just going to mix this together, let that flour absorb all the grease that is in the pan, and then you'll let the flour cook in here for about a minute or two. Slowly, I'm going to begin adding 2 cups of chicken broth in here. You can use low sodium if you like. Using a whisk, I'm just going to mix this, and as soon as I notice it starting to thicken up, I'll add a little bit more of the broth until the broth is all in the pan. Now I'm going to do the same exact thing, but this time I'm using 2 cups of half and half. Slowly just going to add that in there, making sure it is thickening up. Now to add a little bit of seasoning, we're going to add about 1 teaspoon of salt, a 1/2 teaspoon of garlic powder, and a 1/2 teaspoon of pepper. Of course, if you need to later, you can adjust these seasonings, but go ahead and get those mixed in for now. Next, we're going to add in about half of our bacon. We're going to save the other half to top the soup with in the end. And you'll also be needing some medium mild shredded cheddar cheese. I'm using about 1.5 cups of that, with 1 cup of sour cream. Go ahead and get that all mixed together and give the cheese time to completely melt. It's time to add the potatoes in. Like I said earlier, there's going to be some smaller pieces. This is going to contribute into the texture of the soup, kind of making it even thicker and creamier, so don't worry about those small pieces. Here's what my soup was looking like when it was all ready to go, and then here it is in my bowl. I like to top mine with a little bit more cheese, bacon, green onions, and sour cream. Usually I like to just boil the potatoes in here, but microwaving them was a really cool little trick. Overall, this soup was delicious. I really liked doing the potatoes this way, and I will definitely make it like this again. Next up, this is a hidden veggie enchilada soup. So if you have picky kids, they will never know these vegetables are in here. To begin, I'm just going to chop up 1 red bell pepper along with 1/2 of a yellow onion. You will also be needing a 1/2 cup of chopped celery. Mine was frozen, so that's why it looks a little bit funny there, as well as a 1/2 cup of shredded carrots. Now moving over to my crock pot, I'm going to go ahead and add in 2 chicken breasts. Mine were still frozen. Then on top of the chicken, you'll add the onion, red pepper, carrots, celery, 1 can of diced tomatoes with green chilies, one entire small can of tomato paste. I believe this is about 6 ounces. And then 1 heaping tablespoon of minced garlic. Now for the seasonings, I'm adding about 2 teaspoons of cumin, 3 teaspoons of oregano, 2 tablespoons of chili powder, and finally 2 cups of chicken broth. I added the lid and let this cook on a high heat for about 4 hours. After the 4 hours, I went ahead and just removed my chicken out of the crock pot. And then again for this recipe, I'm going to be using my immersion blender. Again, like I said earlier, I just love this thing. It is awesome for soup season. I'm just going to blend this until it's nice and smooth. After blending, now we're going to go ahead and add in the final ingredients. So I'm going to add in some corn here. You can add more corn than me, but we don't like a ton. So I just did about a half a cup. Then you'll add in 1 can of mixed chili beans. Then after shredding your chicken, you can go ahead and add it right back into the crock pot and give this a good stir to combine everything together. Now to finish it off, I'm going to add a little bit of salt and pepper. You can do this to your own taste. I added about 1/4 to 1/2 teaspoon of salt and about 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper. Now if you want to help hide the veggie taste, you can also add some cream cheese in here, but I went ahead and skipped doing that on this day. I topped mine with some Mexican style cheese, some sliced avocado, sliced jalapeno, and some sour cream. My husband likes to add hot sauce into his, but overall this is really good. You don't really notice the vegetables too much. My husband doesn't notice them at all. I don't even think he knows they're in here. So if you have picky eaters, this is a great recipe to try out. Thank you so much for watching today's video. I do hope that you enjoyed and found a recipe that looks good to you. Don't forget to leave me a flower down in the comments below to let me know that you made it all the way to the end of today's video, and I will see you back here on Sunday for a new video. Bye!